So we're back to digging through the depths of eBay to see what's the cheapest retro games we can get that aren't sports games. I know there's plenty of sports games of value, but I'd like to highlight stuff that isn't football, golf or tennis, just to show the variety of stuff you can still get relatively cheaply. The last time we did this we looked at the Mega Drive, and for this video I'd like to take a look at the Master System. Now be aware I'm from the UK, and Master System games are more easily available over here due to the console being quite a success on these shores, so if you're based in the US then your mileage may vary. Sucks to be you! Anyway, here's the 5 cheapest games on the Master System I could find on eBay that weren't sports games. The Ninja was always going to show up in this video. It's a bargain bin staple. Originally developed as Sega Ninja for the arcades and featuring a female protagonist, this Master System version changes that for a boring old bloke. This is an early top-down run-and-gun effort that even predates games like Capcom's Commando, and as a result of being an arcade port, it's incredibly difficult and unforgiving. It feels like you always needed to be close to enemies to hit them, but their sheer volume would always win out against your lone warrior. It's a tough game that demands you to replay it a lot and learn the enemy patterns. This is a shame because you can't really just jump in and rely on your own skill, but I suppose that's to be expected from a game made to drain your loose change. This could be fairly rewarding if you put in the time to learn those patterns, but I feel like this could have been a lot more approachable for its home release. Before we move into the action, I want to reiterate that this is a light gun game, and that means lots of flashing imagery. Please stop here if you suffer from photosensitive epilepsy. Rescue Mission is a game that requires use of a Sega light phaser and a CRT television to play on real hardware. You must protect your little soldier as he travels into enemy territory by minecart in order to rescue his comrades that have been captured behind enemy lines. Enemy soldiers will rush you and mines will be littered on the tracks, and it's up to you to dispatch them in time so you can progress. Each junction on the track is normally accompanied by an ally, who will grant you a power-up if he can be protected before you move on to the next junction. It's a fun little concept that's executed really well, however I had an easier time with it thanks to the emulator I'm using, which allows me to enable a mouse and a crosshair for better accuracy. If you were playing this with a real light phaser on a CRT, then you'd have to rely on your own accuracy, which would still be pretty rewarding in the grand scheme of things. A solid little game that's well worth trying. Super Space Invaders is the home console port of Taito's 1990 effort Space Invaders 91. I bet they felt silly naming the game after the following year. This version throws some interesting new features into the mix, like enemies that fall into the place of the previously defeated enemy, as well as enemies that expand when shot. We also have the infamous cattle mutilation bonus stage, where cows must be protected from UFOs trying to abduct them, and presumably milk them for all they're worth. It's a really fun little spin on the Space Invaders formula that plays well and looks great on the Master System. My only issues with it are that the invaders descend too quickly, and the space between each column of enemies is quite large, which means you'll often send a shot up the gap and have to wait a while before you can shoot again. It's still a great time despite this, and another solid entry in a timeless series of games. Thunderblade never had a good time on home consoles, and this port of the original 1987 arcade game is no different. It's definitely more playable than the abysmal Super Thunderblade on Mega Drive, but it's still a chore to play. The main issue is the lack of vertically orientated display, which means enemies descend on you far too quickly. That lack of extra vertical play space just doesn't allow you to react in time to enemies, and your own gunship has such an enormous hitbox that you'll inevitably get hit. However, the shifting top-down to third-person gameplay is still intact, even if the third-person sections look a little ropey on the Master System. The Master System is really not made to display smooth superscaler style graphics. It's not a terrible port, but it's not something I could really recommend to anyone unless you were trying to collect every Master System game, which is a fool's errand! Finally, we're taking a look at 1986's World Grand Prix. This is an obvious clone of Namco's Pole Position, but thankfully it's also a good one. The gameplay is smooth and responsive, with 12 tracks to race through and even a track editor to mess around with. Unfortunately, there's no way to save your creations when playing on real hardware, so be prepared to lose those custom tracks once you power down your Master System. Either way, this is a slick and simple racing game that's well worth owning if you like the genre. Yes, I know motor racing is technically a sport, but shut up, this is my channel and I like racing games.